Hey everyone, and welcome to our latest explainer. Today, we're diving into the perfectly ordinary objects all around you. You know, the stuff you touch, use, and completely take for granted every single day. We're going to uncover the wild, invisible, physical laws hiding just beneath their surfaces. I promise you, by the end of this, you are never going to look at your desk, your car, or even your bathroom sink the exact same way again.
To kick things off, let me ask you a question. What is the absolute most amazing way to create a vibration in the world? You're probably thinking of, I don't know, giant rumbling industrial motors or massive earthquakes, right? But the actual answer is microscopic, and it's completely wild. Okay, let's dive into this.
All right, here's our roadmap for today's explainer. First, we're going to blow your mind with the secret power of microscopic crystals in ultrasonic vibrations. Then, we'll check out the hidden geometry of everyday mechanics, move into some incredible vehicle secrets, and finally, we'll question our own reality in sound and perspective.
Let's jump right into part 1, ultrasonic vibrations. It's honestly marvelous how something as simple as a tiny, unassuming crystal can hide such extreme power.
So there's this fascinating process known as the piezoelectric effect. Imagine this: we take special crystals and put them inside an electric field. The reaction is instantaneous. These crystals start to expand and contract so violently and with such insane force that it actually changes the state of the water around them. In areas of low pressure, the water literally boils into a gas on the spot, creating these tiny bubbles. But they don't last. Those bubbles instantly collapse, and when they do, they release intense microscopic shockwaves. I know it sounds like sci-fi, but this is the exact explosive process used in ultrasonic cleaners to safely blast dirt off your jewelry, and it's even used in the internal components of many smartphones.
Now, using crystals to boil water into shockwaves is absolutely the most dramatic way to vibrate something. But for everyday life, the methods are way simpler. Think about the vibration motor in your phone, or the speakers on your desk. They just rely on simple electromotors swinging an off-center weight or basic electromagnets pushing back and forth. It's a little less explosive than collapsing gas bubbles, sure, but it's highly effective, way cheaper, and perfectly engineered for the gadgets we carry around every day.
Moving right along to section 2, everyday mechanics. Because if microscopic crystals are that complex, I guarantee the ordinary items sitting in your house right now are just as fascinating.
Think about your morning shave, for example. Pulling a razor straight down compresses the skin directly in front of the blade, which keeps you perfectly safe. But if you move it sideways, it does the exact opposite. It creates tension, basically pulling the skin apart. And since even the most expensive razor blade acts like a microscopic saw after just a few uses, that sideways tension makes it incredibly easy for the blade to catch and slice right into you. It's a slightly terrifying bit of daily physics, but it totally explains why shaving requires such specific, rigid movements.
And the hidden physics doesn't stop in the bathroom. Have you ever cut open an electrical cable and wondered why the wires inside are twisted together? Well, it's pure physics. If they were parallel, bending the cable would stretch the outside wires and compress the inside ones, and eventually they'd snap. Twisting them ensures they occupy both the inside and the outside of the bend, which entirely cancels those forces out. Or what about a wobbly four-legged table at a restaurant? Thanks to basic geometry, if you just rotate that table exactly 90 degrees, you are mathematically guaranteed to find a spot where all four legs touch down perfectly. Oh, and those plastic threads on your soda bottle cap? They aren't actually watertight themselves. Nope. They just act as a mechanical screw, leveraging force to push down and hold a hidden cork-like seal super tight against the rim.
Now think about springs for a second. In your mattress, your car, even in a pen. Almost all of them are made of round metal wire, not square. Why? Because when you compress a spring, you aren't actually bending the metal lengthwise. You are physically twisting the wire. Round shapes are mathematically ideal for handling that specific twisting torque. Square springs do stack better, and they pack more raw power into a tight space, but those sharp corners create weak points, making them way more prone to cracking under extreme pressure.
To wrap up our everyday mechanics, let's look at hydraulic cylinders. You know, the mechanical muscles powering heavy construction equipment. Even if you use the exact same pump, a hydraulic cylinder will always push with far more force than it pulls. Why is that? Because on the pulling side, the physical metal piston rod takes up valuable surface area inside the chamber. That leaves significantly less room for the pressurized fluid to actually push against the internal piston. It's just unavoidable geometry, directly translating into a massive difference in raw physical power.
All right, shifting gears into section 3, vehicle secrets. We're scaling up from household items to large-scale engineering, looking at how we manipulate these exact same physical laws to stay in control at extreme speeds.
Let's check out this really cool phenomenon called camber thrust. See, a tire naturally wants to be a perfect circle, but the flat ground gets in the way and squishes the bottom. When a racing motorcycle leans hard into a corner, it effectively pushes the part of the tire it can't reach further down and to the side. And this brilliantly illustrates why motorcycles can make way tighter turns than cars using the exact same steering angle. Just the sheer act of leaning naturally creates this powerful, invisible sideways force that actively pulls the bike through the curve.
Over in the high-stakes world of Formula One, there's another mechanical secret. During a tight turn, the outside wheel actually turns sharper than the inside wheel. I know, that sounds completely backward. But because centrifugal force shoves the car's massive weight to the outside edge during a turn, that outside tire suddenly gets a lot more grip pressing it into the asphalt. A tire can only turn so far before it slips, based on its grip. So the heavier outside wheel is mechanically instructed to handle a sharper angle than the much lighter inside wheel.
Let's take to the sky for a minute. An airplane's wings perform this incredibly delicate, high-speed balancing act. Turning the left aileron up tilts the air pressure direction forward, while turning the right aileron down tilts it backward, which creates massive drag. To counter these violent, asymmetrical spirals of air pressure that desperately want to spin the plane out of control, aircraft need highly precise rudders, uneven aileron movements, and sometimes engines that are mounted at a very deliberate angle just to fight the physics.
Vehicles are just packed with these genius little micro-adjustments. Take trains. They don't normally use those screeching metal flanges on the edges of their wheels to turn. The wheels themselves are actually tapered cones, so shifting slightly left or right makes one wheel effectively larger than the other, which naturally curves the massive train along the track. On your car, if you have V-tread tires, they absolutely must face forward. If you put them on backward, the V shape would act like a funnel, trapping water right in the middle of the tire and guaranteeing you'll hydroplane on a wet road. And fins on a rocket or a dart, they have to stay on the back. If you mounted them in the front, any slight turn would create a runaway high-pressure loop that would instantly flip the object completely backward mid-flight. No way around it. And that brings us to our final section, sound and perspective. We are moving away from physical metal and rubber to explore how mechanics actually manipulate our very own eyes and ears, completely messing with our perception of reality.
Let's break down active noise cancellation in your everyday headphones. The timeline here is totally mind-bending. At 0 milliseconds, an outside sound wave is recorded by a tiny microphone. By 10 milliseconds, a microchip mathematically inverts that signal. At 20 milliseconds, your headphone's inside speaker physically pulls air at the exact split second the outside wave pushes air out. And by 30 milliseconds, these high and low pressures meet up and completely cancel each other out. You aren't just blocking sound, you are literally fighting physical air molecules with opposite physical air molecules. And you know, our eyes are tricked just as easily. Have you ever wondered why perspective always shrinks distant objects in a drawing? Well, it's because our eyes naturally capture incoming light from multiple directions in a 3D space. But when we force that three-dimensional reality onto flat, 2D paper, those intersecting lines of light have to be mathematically forced to run parallel. That mathematical flattening physically stretches objects that are drawn close to you, and it physically shrinks objects that are drawn far away. Speaking of capturing reality, you really can't blindly trust your digital cameras either. Most digital pictures aren't just a single, perfectly frozen moment in time. They're actually rapid, sequential scans of reality moving from the top of the sensor down to the bottom. Processing every single pixel all at the exact same time is just too heavy and expensive for standard electronics. And this is exactly why fast-moving objects, like an airplane propeller or a swinging golf club, look warped, disconnected, or weirdly stretched in your photos. You aren't seeing a frozen moment, you're seeing time literally spread out across a flat image. So here's a final thought to chew on. If our own senses, our cameras, and the mundane daily tools we rely on are governed by such easily manipulated, completely invisible forces, what else in your everyday life is hiding a mechanical secret? The world is just a giant puzzle of physics waiting to be decoded. Keep your eyes open, stay curious, and thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. Catch you next time.